Welcome to Talk Pro to Me, the podcast where we talk about our passion, the purpose, and the paths that led us to the professional remodeling organization, Pro. We are excited you're here. I'm Sarah Waters. I'm your host. Now let's build something great. This episode is brought to you by Sinovation. You will applaud their creativity. Welcome, everyone. We are excited to kick off our first podcast of the year with one of our Pro members. I have Craig Martin with me today with Lamson, Dugan, and Murray attorneys at law. Craig, how are you doing?
I am wonderful, Sarah. How about you?
Good. I'm excited to have you and kick it off as our first podcast attendee. You've been a member of Pro how long?
10 years.
10 years, past board member, very active committee member, Pro ambassador, very active in the association.
It's a great organization, so it's easy to get involved.
It is. And tell me a little bit, how long have you been attorney at Lamson?
I have been at Lamson since 99. I've been an attorney since 93. So a lot of years.
A lot of years. And what all do you do there?
I'm a construction attorney. So deal with contractors, subcontractors, suppliers, trying to resolve their dispute or trying to avoid the dispute at the front end, helping draft contracts.
What brought you into construction law? I mean, why law in general, but why construction law?
I really like the tangible nature of the litigation, right? In 2004 or 5, there was a tower that fell down. We hired an expert to figure that out. There's a contract that controlled the relationship between the parties, and just seeing that interplay and opportunities really to better put our clients in a better position before those accidents happen. I really like that aspect of it.
Are most cases litigated? Like on average, are most actually solved outside of the courtroom, or typically what does that look like?
We probably resolve 50% before we file a lawsuit. And of those lawsuits that are filed, I'd say 85% of them get done before trial, but there's a lot of work that goes into getting them done before trial.
You mentioned, we talk about contracts all the time, the importance of contract. Not only does it protect the homeowner, it also protects the contractor. What is the most important aspect that you think is a non-negotiable? Everyone should have it in a contract to protect their company.
I don't know that I could point to a single one. My wife says clear is kind. And I think that's true even in contracts. The clarity is important. What are you charging? How are you going to charge it? What are you doing with change orders? What are the payment terms? What happens if they don't pay? Making that clarity up front puts everybody in a better position. So the contractor knows we can stop work if we're not paid for 30 days or 45 days. It makes it very easy to go to the homeowner and say, hey, we either get paid or we stop doing the work. And so again, I think just having that clarity at the forefront is what's important.
Sure. How important is it for a homeowner to ensure when they are working with a contractor, they're signing a contract of some sort?
Well, it's a big investment. Why would you be willing to spend, $50,000, $150,000, $200,000 with someone and not have an idea as far as, what are the rules of the game? Same thing for the contractor. If you don't know what you're getting into, why are you investing that much money on that risk? And that's where, we talk about this a lot with pro members. You can do work without a contract, and that works until it doesn't. It's when that doesn't work, that's when it gets really expensive.
Right. So we've talked a lot about contracts. It's so essential when managing any business, especially in contracting. But I've heard a lot about the cost plus versus allowances. What does that mean?
Honestly, I think cost plus is a little clearer, but contractors are hesitant to use them. So cost plus is whatever the cost of your project, we're going to get paid X percent on top of that, 25, 30, 10, 15. An allowance is we're going to give you X amount for tile. That will cover just cost of purchase. Maybe it'll cover cost of purchase and installation. But when I select a different tile, how does that impact the allowance? At some point, I think there becomes a question of clarity. There is a level of reporting required in a cost plus contract in that ideally you are providing all of the material invoices, you're providing all the subcontractor invoices, and then just tacking on your percentage. That can be difficult to do. But I find there are fewer disputes on a true cost plus than an allowance-based contract.
Sure. Do you think, I see all the time, and AI has become big, right? Like everyone's like, oh, I don't need to hire an attorney. I'll just Google how to put my contract together. How important is it to have a contract that has been reviewed by an attorney within your state? Can they just borrow it from their buddy and throw it out there and utilize it?
AI is absolutely an effective tool, right? The problem is I don't know if all those terms are going to be enforceable. And do they all match up? I mean, that's probably the most important thing. And AI, that can get really confusing because it's going to crank out a good looking contract for you. We have asked AI to draw contracts, but then when we go through them and have to make the changes, is it Iowa or is it Nebraska? Are they compliant in that way? And then really, do they mesh together? And I think most importantly, do they work for your company? I draft contracts all the time, but it's not the same. It's not cookie cutter, right? It starts generally the same, but then how is it, what is your percent down when you start a project? What are your payment terms? Things like that, I think, are important.
How often should one be reevaluating their contract and having you look at it?
I think, every year, every other year, not that often. And the reason I say that, a contractor may experience some things that, we need to deal with that in our contract. And so it's not only on your operational standpoint, what is it about the contract that's not working? And then also from my standpoint, I write these contracts all the time and we defend them all the time. And it's interesting to see what opposing counsel comes up with to say, all right, your indemnity clause isn't effective or isn't as effective as we would like. So we're always, kind of growing and evolving. And so I think every year, every other year is a good pace.
And you've mentioned text. I know that's as communications on verbal in terms of just a phone call or text has been big. What does documentation look like should everything be documented? Should it only be when you're having conflict with a homeowner? How long should you keep these type of communications?
I don't love text only because they become unwieldy and that there are so many of them.
Sure.
But we can export them from the phone pretty well now and put them into a single document. So that's good. And they can be a very good confirming tool. If the worst you can do is confirm something via text, I'm okay with that.
So documenting those change orders is always really important. It's probably tedious, but having those type of communications somewhere, whether it's in an email, in a system you're utilizing, it's really important to document all those communications, it sounds like.
Well, it is. And that's where I see more contractors get into trouble than anywhere else is when they don't document the change order. I recall a text from a client. They were discussing the amount that was owed on the project and the homeowner texted, "Stop, I can't afford this." And my client's response was, "Stop, ? We're done." I don't know that there was a lack of communication there,
Sure.
but it really did strike for me that if a contractor is not making absolutely clear on that change order, that's why, in a written change order, total contract price, total change orders to date, this change order. And if for a contractor that's worried about change orders, getting the change orders prepaid will start as soon as you give us the $3,500 on the change order. It eliminates the dispute later on.
A lot of times we see, sometimes they struggle because contractors don't always understand the importance or value of charging the right amounts. What type of recommendations do you have to ensure that they are covering those cost increase and ensuring they're covering overhead costs in the end?
Two things. I mean, this isn't as well, it's kind of coming back, right? During COVID, it was all about escalation because lumber prices were going crazy. All the materials were going crazy. Now with tariffs, we're finding that is coming back into play.
Yeah.
So are you clarifying in your contract that if the price if the price of materials increases by more than 5% or 4% or 3%, whatever that number is for you, we will look to the homeowner to pay that difference. Clarify with the homeowner that we are not going to eat these tariffs.
Sure.
And again, let's do this at the front end when everybody's getting along and no one's angry. It just seems to be a lot more effective.
What's one of the biggest myths you see that contractors think is so essential and going to get them in trouble, but really it's not the issue that they need to worry about?
I thought you were going somewhere else with that. So let me answer what my first thought was. I see contractors a lot think, just get me past 1 year and I'm fine because I have a 1-year warranty in my contract. But that's not the case. You can get sued for anywhere from 4 to 10 years after the work is done. Yeah. So then what was your real question?
What is a big myth that they think isn't something? They always think this is the thing I need to worry about, but really it's just been created more concern than it really is.
Yeah, I'm seeing this more lately is this whole notice of lien, especially in Nebraska. There is no requirement for a notice of lien. Contractors think, well, I've got to send them a letter before I file my lien. You absolutely don't. As long as you file your lien within 120 days of your last work, you don't have to tell the homeowner. Now, you do have to send a copy of the lien within 10 days of filing it on a residential project, but there's no need for pre-lien notice.
When it comes to, you mentioned filing liens, contracts, court, all the things, how important is it for a contractor to utilize someone like yourself that specializes in construction law instead of just using any type of attorney? Like, do you want to use an estate attorney? Do you want to use a divorce attorney if they said, oh yeah, we can help you?
I mean, I would equate it in our contractor member world. Do you want to hire the tile guy to do your drywall? I'm sure he or she could get it done, but are they going to get it done timely? Are they going to get it done efficiently? Is it going to look right? Same thing with attorneys. I don't do family law. I should not handle a divorce. I don't know the ins and outs. I don't know how to get it done. And by the same token, we are much more effective and I think efficient in representing our contractor clients because we're dealing with construction law all the time. We know what to expect in the lawsuit. We know how to position ourselves, how to position our clients to get the best and most immediate relief. So
at Pro, it's really education is important. Having licensing. How important is it for a contractor to be licensed? We talk about fly-by-nights all the time. City of Omaha does require licensing. How important is it for a contractor to really focus and ensure they are meeting those requirements?
I mean, it's really become a mantra of mine that works until it doesn't. So if you're going to do a lot of work and not be licensed, okay, I'm sure you can find clients. But when a project goes south, the first thing they're going to raise is that you are unlicensed. And that may have no bearing whatsoever on the work you did, but now it casts a shadow on your competency because you weren't even capable of getting a license. And it's not that you're not capable of doing it, you just haven't done it, right? And so I think it really does challenge your credibility right out of the gate. A tile contractor doesn't need a license, but they should be registered with the state. And I would also recommend to contractors who are hiring subcontractors, make sure that subcontractor is licensed with the state, registered with the state, and that they also have insurance. And that is so critically important.
Why is that important for a consumer to make sure that they are checking the boxes? What should their contractor have when they're meeting with them? What should they ensure this contractor checks the box of having the following?
Yeah, I mean, the homeowner needs to make sure that the contractor has work comp. And if it's a larger project, do the subcontractors have work comp? I mean, the last thing that a homeowner wants is for a subcontractor laborer to fall off a ladder and get hurt. And then it's not covered by work comp because the subcontractor didn't have any work comp coverage. And the homeowner somehow gets brought into the lawsuit.
Right. We want to help educate the consumer. Here's the red flags when you're working with a contractor. We talked about the things they do need when they meet with you. What are some of those red flags that they should watch out with when selecting a contractor?
I don't know how many homeowners actually dig in on references. I think that could be critically important. We want to speak with a homeowner that you finished a project with in the last 6 months. I think that's really important. And again, this goes back to kind of my whole thought on representing contractors. You have a contract. That contract should be part of your marketing effort because it shows that you are a professional. By the same token, and here's a list of references if you want to call anybody whose kitchen we remodeled. And if you provide that at the forefront, and by the way, if you would like to contact some references, here they are. I think the homeowners feel very comfortable about A, reaching out, but B, working with you.
Absolutely. At Pro, like I mentioned, we're very education based. We want our contractors, a lot of them can swing a hammer, right? They may not necessarily know all the ins and outs of running a business, growing a business. How important is it that they work on the tools to not just utilize you when they've got themselves in trouble, but what does that look like working with you prior to that point?
I mean, we are a really good resource, particularly for growing their business, right? And so you start off your truck and one guy show. Okay, that's great. We can help you a little bit. But as you grow, as you start to have more employees, having a competent accountant, having insurance that is appropriate and cost effective, even coming to these industry events, let me introduce you to the people that we know. We really are a good resource there. I think the greatest difficulty for a contractor scaling and growing their business is to get the administrative piece of that figured out. Because at some point, doing all your bills at the kitchen table at night just doesn't work. What is the saying? You need to work on the business, not in the business. And so we can really be a good tool and a resource for getting them folks that can help them spend more time on the business than working in it.
If you had to pick a theme song for your walk-in song for Craig Martin, what would it be?
Drew Holcomb Family.
Singing.
I like to do a little this or that, just to see what your first instinct is Chuck Norris or Bruce Lee?
Bruce Lee.
Oh, over Chuck?
Over Chuck.
Why Bruce?
I don't know. There was something about Bruce perfecting his art, so to speak, and frankly, Chuck Norris is kind of a jump the shark for me. So,
okay, so Bruce or Betty White?
Betty White.
Oh, why Betty White?
Betty White would be a lot more fun to hang out with.
She would be fun to hang out with. Classic, right? Were you in a fraternity?
I was.
You were. Were you wild and crazy?
Probably.
Where did you go to college?
I went to Creighton. I was a SIG Ep at Creighton.
You were. So are you a big Creighton fan now?
I am. It's been a rough couple of days.
It has.
Yeah.
It has. Are you a Nebraska fan at all? They've been.
I am. I
this
love
year.
Nebraska basketball. I'm so glad that they are playing well.
Yeah.
It makes it. I grew up in Minnesota, so it's nice to see some Big Ten coverage.
Yeah.
And I love that they're doing well.
Absolutely. What is the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Find a mentor.
Absolutely.
Find someone that's already learned the hard knocks that you want to avoid.
What is the most uncomfortable situation you've ever been in?
Walking into something for which I'm unprepared.
Yeah.
And the lack of preparation is self-induced. Not taking the time to figure it out and think, I'll just wing this. That rarely goes well for me.
I think what we all really want to know and why we tune in is we want to know what is the most illegal thing you've done.
I'll have to think on that and come back on the next podcast.
Something I've thought about a lot that I just need to ask you is, do you ever wear sweatpants?
I am now, but you can't see them.
So I've seen Suits. Do you watch Suits?
I have seen a few Suits.
Is it just like that? Is
It's
that what your
always-
day in the
always,
life
Yep.
of Craig Martin is?
Every case is resolved in a week or an hour. Yeah, no, it's nothing like that. We tell clients all the time, litigation is really, really slow. Again, that's why we strive to, put yourself in a better position at the forefront and then figure out how to resolve it quickly.
Talked about Matt. I watched Matlock, and so have you ever been locked in an elevator and so you couldn't get into the case? And someone,
It hasn't happened. No, sorry.
no one's conspiring to keep you out of that courtroom
No.
locked down.
I'm not that special. So no, they probably are like, no, let him go.
What does a day look like for Craig Martin in the office?
It is not nearly as exciting as Suits or even Matlock. It is a lot of time on the phone and on the computer responding to questions. And again, that's where it's important that you have someone that is experienced in this world that, I've dealt with this before. This is this is what the statutes require. This is what, we would recommend that you do, something along those lines. There's nothing wrong with anyone saying, let me look into that. I still do that. I will do that several times this week. Let me research that and get back to you. But at least I know where to start.
What has been one of your favorite parts of being involved? You've been with Pro for 10 years. What do you love about it?
I love that I can walk in the room and talk to people. I was at, Pro back when it was NARI, and I was one of the few attorneys. I think I might have been the only attorney there for a while. To get people to talk to me was incredibly hard, but it takes a while to build those relationships. And now to go to Pro meetings, it's so much more social and fun. And
it's really about running a better business, right? Like you can get 1,000 leads, but if you don't know how to manage or run your business, like we said, it's working on it and not being stuck in the business. And our goal is for people to learn to run a better business, utilize those that know what they're doing, like yourselves, even an accountant, right? Like we don't want to spend the money, but in the end, they're probably going to save you. They might save you $10,000 in the end because they're a professional. They know how to run those books. Your wife probably does not. And so I think it's more effective in that manner. But really through that, building relationships, then you're generating more leads. Our members are competitors, but they become each other's best referrals because maybe they only take $500,000 jobs and the newer guy takes smaller or just a bathroom or whatever, or their pipelines are full. And so I think that's a great testament is that it really is about building relationships that then do build to more business in the
Absolutely.
end. What has been your favorite part of your job? What do you love about what you do?
I really love that I get to help people. I mean, on either side of that aisle, if it's a homeowner, if it's a contractor, I think it's great to see the problem, work towards resolution. I've started a mediation practice here the last 2 years where I work to resolve lawsuits that I'm not involved in. And I love that work because it is just, how do we get to resolution to put this behind everybody? No, I've yet to meet a client that enjoys litigation. It's not an enjoyable process. So to the extent that we can get these matters resolved short of litigation or early on in litigation, it makes everybody happier.
What is one of your least favorite or hardest parts of your job?
Dealing with unreasonable expectations. I mean, and
fair.
that's no different than a contractor, right? But where I want this done and I want it done in 2 weeks. Yeah, that's just not going to happen.
But you've been in the industry over 30 years, right? Nearly 30 years. What is one of the most costly mistakes you see? Where are contractors losing money?
And failing to document. Another thing that I see where contractors, I think, lose the most money is that they wait until that final payment and they make that final payment large, right? So instead of taking 25, 35, 50% down at the beginning, they'll leave 15 or 20% at the end. My recommendation is always leave it to 5% at the end. If you have to walk away from 5%,
Sure.
It's obviously expensive, but it's a lot cheaper than 10 or 15%.
I watch a lot on social media, the apps, the neighborhood apps, the pages on Facebook. And a lot of times there's so much discussion on projects and contractors and bad experiences versus good. And there's so much different advice. And I think one thing when you talk about that down payment, I've seen someone say, we paid this and we're not happy yet, or we haven't started the work when they said they were going to. And people say you should never pay that down payment. What is your advice to people what kind of contractor isn't charging some funds up front? Is that a realistic expectation first?
I think every contractor should be charging
Right.
up front like that. I can't, first of all, if you're dealing with that at the forefront, you haven't even bought lumber yet.
Sure.
And there's already a tremendous breakdown of trust. And then secondly, why do you have to bankroll this? This isn't your future home.
Right.
Why do you have to eat that cost? Now, if you want to buy it and submit a bill within a week, okay, that's perhaps more reasonable. But I don't think it's realistic for a contractor to say, no money down and we'll get, 50% done before you have to pay anything. I just simply wouldn't do that.
Absolutely. So homeowners, you've heard it. It is not unrealistic. It is required typically to start that. That's how they fund the project. So I think that's good. You see so much good and bad advice out there.
Well, and this comes down to, what is your level of professionalism? What kind of references are you providing?
Sure.
What can you do for the homeowner to generate some comfort in them making a large payment? And I've heard from a number of contractors, we're really not sure they're serious
Sure.
until they put some money down.
Yeah.
I mean, I know some contractors that won't even meet with a homeowner without a couple $100 down.
Yeah.
And I think that does bring a level of seriousness to that first meeting.
And same so we talked about starting that project, same on the end, you see the same thing. Like, I don't want to pay that 5% because that punch list as a consumer, I'm not satisfied with it. What options are from both ends, the homeowner as well as the consumer? What does that look like when we are to that final end? They have the final payment, but they're not satisfied with the final work.
So you can add some clarity to the contract, right? We will do the punch list and we'll come back twice. That's it.
Sure.
We're not coming back anymore. You can, include in your contract how much will be owed at the punch list. And it might just be a few $1,000s. Let the homeowner hold that. I have no problem from the need for a homeowner to hold some money back to ensure that the punch list gets done. And then, get in there and do the punch. And once the punch is done, that should be paid. And yes, there are always going to be those homeowners that are never satisfied.
Sure.
I think we call them the blue tape people, where they have, hundreds of blue tape pieces on the wall showing imperfections with painting. And just know that your contract's never going to protect you from that.
Sure.
But, let's get yourself situated as best we can to avoid, if the blue tape scenario comes up, you're only owed a couple $1,000s.
Absolutely. Good advice for sure for consumer and contractor.
Yeah.
So we talked about clear is kind, right? That is important, because I think to the same, we will be so detail oriented that people might be like, oh God, this is overkill. But I think when you can clarify an expectation up front, no one's disappointed because they knew exactly what to expect from detail to detail.
I mean, and it matters on the project, right? I
Yeah.
review a lot of contracts on large commercial projects. They are 60, 70, 80 pages long. They have addressed every detail under the sun.
Yeah.
You do not want to roll into a homeowner with that. But, I tell my clients that the contract should be 2 to 3 pages, single spaced, and that is sufficient protection and enough clarity to avoid most of the problems.
Awesome. Who is your favorite pro member?
My favorite pro member are members that show up and are willing to engage at events.
Yes, we love those pro members too. They're fantastic. Well, Craig, we were so excited to have you. You did awesome. Great way to kick off the year. Thanks, Craig.
Thank you.